our sponsors. We don't just take their money and run like a butter bar lieutenant lost on the land nav course. Are you finally ready to plant your flag and claim your territory? Maybe it's time to use that VA loan to buy a home. Or hell, maybe you're looking to refinance and put some extra cash in your pocket for more questionable life decisions. Either way, the Veterans Mortgage Source, powered by Canopy Mortgage, has your six. Look, buying a home or refinancing can feel like getting overrun on a bad op. Chaotic, confusing, and full of obstacles that make no damn sense. That's where Corey and his team come in. They're like the QRF of home loans, ready to pull you out of the chaos and guide you to the best program for you. And trust me, they'll answer all your questions. Yeah, even the dumb ones. Whether you're a salty vet or fresh out of barracks still trying to figure out where your TA-50 went. Great service, solid rates, and a team that actually understands the military life. That's why all of us here at Veteran Trash Talk trust them to do right by every veteran in their family. Ready to lock it in? Give Corey a call or shoot him a text at 808-699-7874. That's 808-699-7874. Don't wait. Unless you like overpaying and getting treated like an FNG. The Veterans Mortgage Source is powered by Canopy Mortgage, LLC. All loans are subject to credit and property approval.
Hey, what's up, Trash Talkers? Listen, it's impossible to fight, okay, if you don't know what you're fighting for. Does that make sense? Like, if you're in the dumps and you're struggling with mental health, things of that nature, it's going to continue tearing you down, all right? Because you're consistently trying to fight something, which is that demon, which is usually something from the past, right? Maybe that why needs to be fighting for your future. Let that be your why. Get the hell up and start fighting for your future. Stop fighting things that happened in the past. Easier said than done, right? Go seek help. It's okay not to be okay. A lot of people need to hear this. You are more of a warrior and a fighter if you stand up and say, hey, this has to stop. I need to go seek help. The stigma, everything has changed. It's okay not to be okay.
And so my honesty cap is dedicated to a little, we'll call it a public service announcement for civilians and other people in the military. There are a few people that you should always take their stories with a grain of salt. Vegans, CrossFitters, and special operations guys that tell you that they were special operations without being prompted. The first thing they say is, yeah, I used to be soft. Right. The only unicorn in that entire group is like a special operations guy that was like a vegan and did CrossFit. That guy's probably going to stay quiet for a little bit longer because he's confused as what he should talk about first. That's the only reason. Right. Anybody that says that they were soft without being prompted or without it being like a normal part of your communications is probably either an enabler or going to tell you a bunch of stuff that's not exactly true.
What's up, Trash Talkers? What's up, Gruntworks Nation? Big Earl. You heard Dave talk. You heard Buddy talk. Now, Buddy's all about, he is a Green Beret and he's Special Forces and yada, yada, yada. But he will not tell you that unless, he really, really likes you and he's made dinner for you. However, what Veteran Trash Talk does is we bring a lot of light to the veteran community, the first responder community. We promote that what we're doing well, all right, whether we're running for office, we started a business, nonprofit, all those things. Veteran Trash Talk is a super clean page. We got Gruntworks if you want to go there and raise a little hell a little bit, but we are here to promote veteran-owned businesses. So the show you are about to watch is a veteran or veterans or a spouse of a veteran or a child of a veteran that's doing great things in the community, and we need your help promoting them and getting them all the success that they need. All right, guys, enjoy the show.
This is the Veteran Trash Talk Hour, hosted by Nick, Dave, and Buddy. Real warriors making fun of other real warriors. Try to not get triggered.
What's up, trash talkers? How we doing, Growtworks Nation? I know I'm not as pretty as the face, man. It is the baker. They let me out of the cave. They let me out, but the beard, at least I don't have that baby face. At least I can grow a beard.
I mean, we can all grow beards.
No,
You know what
Dave
else can grow beards? Vaginas.
Dave can't.
They can grow beards.
Dave can't. Yeah. And they take a pounding. They're tough. So, joined today by the big girl and Buddy, who is coming from us abroad. How's everybody doing?
Doing awesome. Yeah, I just flew in from Fort Sill this morning, hanging out with old Sergeant Major Pearson and the Baird man, Colonel Baird. Big shout out to them. They raised over $300K in the AAR, and they took the W for the Army. So
Nice.
went out there and had some fun and celebrated with them. But yeah, other than that, freaking excited.
There you go. Buddy, how you doing?
Doing really well. Just trying not to catch a French accent. You know what I mean? But I'm good. I'm good.
Been spending a lot of time over there.
I mean, I've been here for a week. That's about a little over a week. It's been fun.
He doesn't have anything to do in Tennessee, so
We'll get more into it when we get into the honesty cap. But you know, France is not a bad place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
it's good.
welcoming our guests as well, a bunch of retired NCOs who we'll get into that in a little bit. Buddy, why don't you hit us with that honesty cap?
Yeah. So especially now in social media, you see a bunch of people that complain, like hate the United. They live in America. They hate America. And I will tell you, as somebody who travels quite a bit, I travel quite a bit abroad. Like this year, I've been, of course, to France, Spain, Egypt, a few other places. And I will tell you that more people need to get out of the United States and do a little something that we used to call in dive school Equipment Appreciation Day, where they take away one of your fins or like your mask, and then they make you swim around and get yelled at and beat up underwater so that you appreciate having two fins and a mask. We don't the people in the United States, bitch. I'm in France right now. It's a first world country. They've been here a long time, longer than us. In fact, without them, arguably, there might not have been an us. We repaid it back. Not a big deal. We gave it back. We paid it back. We're good. But they don't have air conditioning in most places here. Like that one over there, that's a new unit. Just got put in because of me. I'm not gonna lie. Because I was like, nah, son, I'm not coming if you ain't got air conditioning. Like, people bitch and whine and moan. Like, it's hot here. It's hot. Like, it's warm outside. But I was reminded of a first sergeant that I once had that said that in a weird West Virginia accent, like, you got to get acclimatized out there. You got to get out in the sun and understand that you're going to be hot. It's just hot. It's just part of it. You just got to be out there in it. And I think that Americans, like, we've had it so good for so long. Like, every building, like, there's dog houses that have air conditioning. Everything's like, and we complain about everything. Like, we have so much fresh water, we poop in it. We poop in the fresh water. There are countries in the world where they kill each other for fresh water. We poop in it. Just take a big old deuce right in the fresh water. Flush it on down. Don't even care. That's how good we have it. We are living in the best time, in the best place, and we're still miserable. It's because we haven't gotten out and seen that some people, like, we're bitching about, like, I'm a vegan. I only eat vegan protein. And you have the option of what type of protein. People are eating whatever slower than they are in like 90% of the countries in the world. What did you eat tonight? Something that didn't move very fast. That is what's on the menu. and some spices, a lot of spices. You know why other countries have super spicy food? Because it's rotten. Because most of it was rotten. They want to hide it. They just cook it really well and then put a bunch of seasoning on it. Boom. That's how you get Indian food, guys. That's where it comes from. You can look it up. That's on Google. Just Google it.
I'm canceling the reservation today.
Like that's how it.
That's okay.
Now,
We have health codes in the United States. You're going to get good food.
Now we have healthy, clean food, and we're just eating it because we like the spices of what was rotted food at one point. We're like, I want to go harken back to the olden days when I might, in fact, die of eating this chicken. Not anymore. Not anymore. There was a person here, like a few days ago, I was listening to the news. A kid died of foodborne illness, and they had to close down a bunch of butcher shops. I almost said it in French. My bad. I almost said boucherie. They almost had to close a bunch of boucherie. That's the things I know in French is actually the boulangerie, because that's where you get bread, and boucherie, because that's where you get meat. And that's really all you need. Anywho, but yeah, a kid died here from getting sick from food. When's the last time you heard ABC News talking about, other than Chipotle? We already know that's why they put seasonings on it. But anyway, honesty cap, get out of the States, go to other countries, see how the other half live, and then come back. You'll be so much happier. So much happier. Not because you got out and you're worldly, but because you're back where your house can be 68 degrees in July in Austin, Texas.
Yeah. No, that actually goes really well in my book of world, but we'll give the guests a take on that. What do you guys think?
Hey, I'm near Austin, Texas, so I agree. It's hot here.
Yes. I tell you, I do quite a bit of traveling myself, and I just came back from France down there, right? And, I'm like, hey, give me a Coke, right? And the Coke is like 25 centiliters, and it was like €4.30. Yeah. And I'm like, what?
Yeah. I mean, and don't ask for ice. You ain't get no glass for that. Glass, by the way, is ice.
And that makes me appreciate 7-Eleven and the big gulp, Everything's big here, man. It's just like, holy crap, 99 cents, man. I can go ahead and just drink Coke all day long. Wine's cheaper. And it's just like, and you're right. You're right about the air conditioners. They have that sucker regulator. I'm like, man, it's hot, and it's just like the food, the food, people rave about the food from all over the place, but man, there's so much I can take of that stuff. I mean, I know you've probably been up there to Italy, right? There's nothing up there but pasta and sauce. They don't believe in protein. And I have no idea how they're not overweight. And I'm thinking, I tell you, I will say that they're not overweight, possibly because they can't just go get a big gulp for like 99 cents. That is true. And I do miss.
I got to walk up the mountain to the restaurant.
Because here,
also the rotten food just runs right through you. You don't have a chance to absorb it.
I'd really like to get something cold to drink, and they're like, "Do you want a beer?" And I'm like, "No, just water. Can I just get like ice water? Do you have that?" No, we have room temperature water if you want that. Like nothing puts you to thirst in the gym like some.
I was in
piss warm water.
I was in my 18th day, man, and I was just like, "Hey, man, I got to go to McDonald's, man."
Oh yeah.
I mean, I have enough culture. Yeah. I have enough culture for the last 18 days. We went to Croatia, Slovenia, Bosnia, France. We're out there in Normandy, so we went to the Normandy celebration. That was great over there. Great countries, great stuff. But you're right.
Yeah,
people need to get out, and they'll appreciate when I come back to the States. And I'm like, holy cow! I can get in my big ass truck, and and fill up 25 gallons and get me a big gulp. Man, there's nothing better than that for me.
100%. Because you know what they say? I just bought a T-shirt that says you can't measure freedom in the metric system. That's a real thing.
Yeah, I think the European countries, you guys are having it easy there. Go to the South American or some of those south of USA, and I think it's even a little bit tougher. The first world countries are again they're all, in some cases comparable, but the further you get away from that, it's even more, desolate, or it's just more. The gap or the difference is so much bigger.
I love talking to people from the U.S. that have only been to like Europe, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm super worldly. I've traveled around. Like I've been to France and Germany. Like, have you gone anywhere where there's not first world, where it's like even second, maybe a third?" Yeah, no.
Like Malawi,
all right.
like Malawi,
Well,
Africa.
look at how big the U.S. is, though. I mean, you travel enough around here, and it can be third world. Have you been to Baltimore lately?
Yeah. Well, here's the
Nick and I were in St. Louis. I'm pretty sure
Jersey,
we were
does
third
that
world where
count?
we went to.
Very
Buddy was
rarely.
there too.
Very rarely do you go to a third world country outside, and see like homeless people that are also morbidly obese. Like it's a weird thing to see that.
Oh man. Oh yeah. Hey, I just want to say shout out to all the viewers out there right now. We got a bunch watching on the X channel, so give us a like and a share. Gruntworks and VTT are chiming in there pretty well. We are shadow banned on YouTube. They don't like that we say cuss words or that we open up our show with vaginas grow beards. That they tend to frown upon that. So if you could give us a like and a share, that would help out a lot. Yeah,
Keep our sponsors around too.
Yeah. Sponsors. Our sponsors are good for it, though. We got Craig coming in and says grunt in Vietnam for a year. Hey, man, welcome home, Craig. Appreciate you, brother.
Hell
I was thinking about this yesterday for my book of Earl, and it's funny that Buddy said that because it's kind of mixed together a little bit about just being, an American, right? And understanding just how freaking good you have it. And I was literally thinking about that because in Fort Sill, if you haven't been to Fort Sill, it's a field artillery base, so we don't like it very much. They're not infantry guys. We don't really care for them. But you got Geronimo's cell there, right? You have the Comanches, the Apaches, the Kiowas, and they're very prevalent there still, right? And there's a lot you can learn from just talking to the people there, walking around. But they had a festival, Freedom Fest last night that, Old Sergeant Major Pearson and the Baird Man launched off and did the pump up for it. And, it puts a little bit, I don't know about you guys, but, July 4th is coming up. That's why I wear my shirt. So it's a pretty simple book of Earl. I usually say around this time of the year. And it's kind of what stemmed the book of Earl, chapter 1, verse 1, quit being a triggered pansy. All right. With fireworks. Okay.
Oh.
All right. All right, none of you watching this show, probably only 3 people alive that were in the Ardennes who were getting shelled by 88s for like 3 months straight, right? Like fireworks are okay, all right, and don't be that triggered pansy that ruins it all for all the veterans out there. I'm like, are you okay with these fireworks, Nick? I'm like, shit, fucking launch them all, bro, right? Like it's like I don't understand how you can have a hot dog and a big gulp for one in one hand, right? Fireworks going off, and you're like, "Oh my god, I'm in Iraq!"
Nick, weren't you blown up, and you don't have an issue with them?
I don't remember getting blown up, so I don't know. But that's a good part. But what I was getting prideful about, what I was thinking about was, I want you to take a step back, and I want you to think about the late 1600s, 1700s, all right, of how tough people were. Right, to think about, and men and women, right? Like the man's got to go out and gather, got to go do stuff. That woman's got to, take care of the house. That woman, and when we say take care of the house, it ain't vacuuming, right? It's farming and sometimes fighting, right? And and doing what you have to do. They were survivors, and there was an idea, and I get it. You can do the woke revisionist history and talk about things that happened back then that weren't good. Of course, things that happened back then that weren't good. But there was an idea that really, really tough dudes fought for, and women, right? They fought for it. And if you look in the short relative time of history, where we are now, exactly what Buddy just said. We are in one of the best times that a human being, if you're in America, you could live in. Go somewhere else and look. This is what I want you guys to think about on July 4th. All right. And I just want you to think about, how far we've come as a nation. But again, think about how easy you have it. And even me, I'm getting soft. I put on like 10 pounds in the last 2 weeks. I haven't worked out. Right. I ain't ready to go fight nobody right now. Right. Why? Because I have the ability to get lazy. All right. America provides me the ability to get lazy. Now it'll make me sick in a little bit. I'll go work out again. It's pissing me off. But Like, no, enjoy what you have. Be proud of being an American. All right. And yes, it is patriotic to not agree with some of the things that are happening. That's true. But be proud that you're in the greatest country in the world. All right. And then let's go to the veterans. All right. And I'm going to get mad at Dave, who's on vacation, because, he got all triggered and did that whole thing that I hate where don't ever start out a sentence as a veteran.
Ugh.
All right. Because I don't speak for Juan. I don't speak for Buddy. All right. So if I have an opinion about something, this is about Big Earl. Right. It's not because I served in the fucking army. All right. Because I served in the army does not somehow make me a geopolitical expert on Iran. Right. Like, not even close. So July 4th, I want you to send them. Send the fireworks. Blow them up. All right. And if you're one of those veterans, and Buddy said this a couple years ago, that doesn't like fireworks, all right, they got these things now. They're earbuds. Earbuds. Put them in. Put in Rage Against the Machine, you un-American piece of crap, on July 4th, right? And go to sleep. Okay? That's it.
Well, hey,
That's
look, Big Earl.
Oh, yeah, Dave, he's on vacation. Tunes in. Well, Dave, are you down there in Mexico as a veteran? I don't like what they're doing over there with ICE.
I just like how he couldn't wait one more week till we all go on vacation to go on vacation. Had to start it early.
Right.
We do it the same time every year. It's not like it's sprung on him.
Yeah. So again, those of you watching for the first time, the Book of Bro, a lot of Buddy's honesty caps are how we get triggered usually, what triggers us, and then we talk about it. So I just, you know what, there were some really, really hard people that built this country. Right? And they, of course, they did some things that would be very, very highly frowned upon today. But
that being said, it's
please, somebody else take the mic from me.
It's dishonest to look at history through the eyes of the present.
Right.
There were some people that did some bad things, but everybody did bad things to each other back then.
Comes the Austin P from Buddy.
Yeah, that was
Caller.
that's how it worked. Like you took from the weak because they were weak, and that's how stronger people were made.
Yeah.
That being said, the other thing about the 4th of July fireworks thing, fireworks are in fact scary and annoying for a veteran on October 2nd. And
7 o'clock at night when you're outside smoking a cigar.
On September 28th.
When they aren't supposed to be
maybe on December 1st. But it's the 4th of July. Bitch, it's coming. Were you that fucking triggered by like when EOD blew stuff up and said, hey, it's noon, we're going to blow shit up on the fucking speaker, and then it exploded, and you're like, oh my God, was that an IED?
No, we cheered. We cheered when they blew them up.
They were going to blow shit up at fucking in 5 minutes. It's been 5 minutes. They blew it up. You can't be scared by something is coming. That's dumb. That would be like every time, like, oh, I was on my 50th jump. I was so scared because I was going to go out of the plane. You've done it 50 other times. You know exactly what's about to happen. Shut up. Jump out of the plane. Or don't. And just get in the back. Sit there with the porta potty cleaner guy that's going to take off the vomit or whatever. Go away. Stop talking.
And
as far as the starting of sentences as a veteran, the guy that checked my ID card when I went into the chow hall, he's a veteran too. He never stepped out of the wire, but he's a veteran. Like the guy that never deployed, also a veteran. So, it's like autism. It's on a spectrum. Some people got it real bad. Some people don't.
Nick, here's a question. As a veteran who never deployed, do they have McDonald's, 7-Elevens, Quickie Marts in Baghdad and Iraq and in Afghanistan?
Well, not after General McChrystal got rid of all of them, that son of a bitch. Right? Because
Because last time I checked, they're, you're here. You can look down the street and see a grocery store. They don't have that there. You're not getting shelled. You're not getting bombed.
Yeah. Again, we're talking about the bro vets, right? The bro vets that just like they'll sit here and tell you how situational where they are, and then can't handle July 4th. Like,
yeah. Well, the other thing that I've noticed about July 4th is that there's not a whole lot of shrapnel from the 4th of July.
I don't know. You ever had those things rain down on you or go off when they weren't supposed to?
Yeah, well, that's an accident. Yeah.
After a block party, you got all this, dunnage on the top of your roof.
Yeah.
Sitting up there.
Exactly.
Hey, man, I was like 12 lighting M80s.
Yeah.
You guys know
Oh, yeah.
what M80s
Yeah.
are, right? And wait for the last second, go.
You know what?
Oh,
You know
you
what?
didn't have
That is
Roman
that is a
candle
really
fights,
good
you're wrong.
point. You're not a real veteran scared of the 4th of July until you double stack sandbags on top of your house. That's when I'll say, all right, maybe. Like when you start
Then you can be
building
triggered.
bunkers, then I got you. Like
Yeah, I
when you
might
have
even
to put
go
more
talk
work-
to your neighbors for you. Like, hey, this
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah, when you have to put more work into your gripe, then I'll maybe
When
understand.
you're digging a fighting
Well,
hole.
Yeah, until you're getting AR-15s out and measuring width and Kevlars to measure like depth, then
Yeah,
you're
two
probably all
Kevlars for a foxhole, right? I mean, two M16s,
two M16s,
the old 7-8.
Kevlars, and then armpit
Yeah.
deep. Not a huge deal.
Don't forget the grenade sump.
Oh yeah,
The great stuff. And
the grenade stump's gonna save you.
We'll let these guys chat about it too, but that'll be a pretty good segue to these old guys. They wrote this like the 7-8 when I first got him. Buddy would first like I remember there was a breaching technique with a Hellfire in the 7-8. It was like, yes, that is how I want to open a door.
Well,
Good, we're clear.
You're just going in for BDA.
Well, make sure nothing was on the other side.
1 up, 2 up, 3. Yeah, we're all up, man. We didn't even go in. Yeah, what do you guys think about the 4th of July?
Yeah.
Or what about the as a veteran? How many times have you caught yourself saying as a veteran? Like, shit.
I don't do that.
Yeah.
I don't
I
either.
really don't. No.
I'm going to watch fireworks.
Only Dave.
Yeah.
I don't think
We're
I
with
Only
the
Dave.
Chamber of Commerce here, and the city came to the Military Relations Committee and asked me to speak on behalf of veterans about don't light off fireworks or consider the veterans' point of view. And I told them, I said, I'll go on your in your PSA. I said, but that's not what I'm going to say. The average veteran is not, hunkering down, scared in their bedroom on 4th of July. This is the perception of, mental illness or, every veteran's got PTSD. So, the community thinks they're doing goodness for veterans when really, in a lot of cases, it's just overblown.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're perpetuating BS is what they're perpetuating.
I don't know a
They're trying
veteran,
to get
and I know a lot
attention.
of veterans here, at least in my community, that's afraid of 4th of July. What about y'all? Do y'all know veterans who have complained of fears? I mean, obviously we have buddies who are dealing with things, but yeah, I don't know a veteran one.
I think if there was a list of things that most veterans are worried about, fireworks on the 4th of July are not even on there. And,
like Buddy said, he knows they're coming.
It's only like 1 or 2 guys in a community that are like, this is my time to shine. But they're the same guys that are Memorial Day or grumpy, pissed off, and like, how dare you have a sale on Memorial Day?
Don't thank me for my service.
Don't get out there and my buddies are dead. They're all dead because you had a barbecue. Hey, come on, bro.
They got 3 free meals over at the Outback and the Corral, and they got $10 off over at the
I had a corpsman buddy that went. He was in Fallujah both times, and he would when shit would pop off, he would dive for cover because he was in that shit. But on 4th of July, guess what? We were standing there together with a glass of bourbon, watching the shit explode above our house as I was lighting it. Weird.
Well, that's because here's the thing: when you were 7 years old and something popped behind you, you know what you did?
You ducked.
You jumped. You know why you jumped? Because you were a fucking human, and that's what humans do when loud noises go off.
Weird.
And they don't expect them. That's human nature.
Hollywood's got a problem. The guy doesn't flinch when guns, when someone's shooting. It's like that's the guy that gets shot.
Yeah,
like the guys that all dove down, they didn't get shot, but I'm a tough guy.
I always like the guys that would brag about that mortar attack happened. I didn't even go. All I did was I walked around. I just whatever, doesn't matter to me. Like, okay, I mean, cool story, bro. Like, you're tough, but like
You lost
when
the
they're
major
picking
that
you up
way.
with a sponge to put you in a box.
You gotta ask him if he wants to fight or he wants to surf.
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
start. Yeah.
No, seriously, dude, I'm tough. Don't even worry about mortars, bro. Like,
Yeah.
I do.
Oh, man.
I
Yeah.
do. I have a.
Yeah, so-
I have. It's kind of like was that
An
celiac
attachment
or
to
whatever,
life?
where you can't eat bread. It's
Yeah,
like I have an
celiac.
allergy to hot metal in my body. It
doesn't like it.
Yeah, I break
Yeah.
out in blood.
It's pretty usual.
Yeah.
Historically. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, Crystal White saying I haven't seen you in a while, Crystal. Welcome back to the show. Yeah. And so again, I know there's going to be some people listening and commenting later because we get a lot of downloads if Chris ever uploads them on Spotify and stuff like that. But people will comment like, "I thought this was a mental health page and supporting veterans page." It is. And for the last 4 years, we've taken an approach that you might not like, and it's again showing good things that veterans are doing, and then also saying that you have to own what's wrong with you. You have to own your demon. Nobody's saying you don't have a demon. Nobody's saying that like you can't be upset on fireworks. We're telling you that it ain't our responsibility. All right. It's our responsibility to help you if you ask for it. Okay. So you own that demon. Get that demon out. All right. And then we will help you. All right. And if we can't help you, all right, we have 4 years of shows with profits, nonprofits that we can point you in the right direction. And just a case, an example is somebody, hey, I got this buddy in Montana, and I'm sitting here 5 years ago when I was working for Juan. All right, somebody says I got a problem with in Montana. I'd be like, good luck, bro. What am I supposed to do for you in Montana? All right, but now we've had 2 guests from Montana that have equestrian therapy farms up there, and I can be like, hey man, give this guy a call. All right, go get him. All right, so connecting everybody that way. So again, we're not telling you to not be empathetic, but we've talked about this before, you can't be empathetically suicidal. All right. At some point in time, empathy has to lead into action. All right. And then action leads into taking care of each other. So get after it. And speaking of taking care of each other, I get the great privilege of introducing these 3 fine young gentlemen. All right. And I'll just go down the row. I don't think I've ever worked with Lance. I don't think we were ever together anywhere, and I was never anywhere with old Sergeant Major Elder either. But I did clean his picture a few times. All right, so when I was at the academy, I had to dust it off, and clean it all up, so I do recognize the face. And so you're welcome for keeping your picture looking good from 2019 to 21. And then I graciously got fired from my position at the Nickel Co. because I was a absolute terrorist there. Couldn't stand what they were doing, and I wasn't supposed to be there for one. My position was supposed to be for an MP, and they gave it to an 11 Victor. So I'm sitting here like, why do you guys suck at this? All right, and then I get yelled at for saying you sucked, and I'm like, but they suck at it. And then then old Juan knows there was somebody there I didn't like, and we didn't get along, and he wanted to put his nose in things. But Juan stepped in, gave me a job, and let me retire with dignity. And really appreciate Juan, and he took care of me, and I got to do some cool stuff for the last couple months before I got out. And then Juan Ortiz is here, great friend of the program and a great friend of mine. These are just, for some reason, they're going to start they have started a nonprofit to research maybe what they did wrong as leaders. Because if you didn't fix it while you were in, what are you going to do about it now? So welcome to the Trash Talk Hour. Talk about I am NCO. What do you guys got going on? So welcome to the Trash Talk Hour.
Give it to him, Dan.
Yeah,
Give it to
thanks,
him.
guys. Hey, NCO is you're right. It's a nonprofit think tank. There's a number of think tanks around the Army, in the Army. There's not one think tank that focuses exclusively on Army non-commissioned officers. So what are we all about? We're really about trying to help hold the integrity of the Army NCO Corps. There's a number of great enlisted leaders doing that in the Army. I get it, but think about it. I mean, holding the history, holding and guarding and fighting for the NCO Corps as a body outside the organization that doesn't have the bureaucracy, that doesn't have the restrictions. Non-commissioned officers follow the orders of the officers appointed above them, as they should, and I get it. And sometimes there's things that happen in the Army that that NCOs, whether they agree with them or not, when their boss says shut up and color, they salute and they do an about face and go execute. And so sometimes, somebody and I'm not saying NCOs don't disagree with their boss, but they mostly do it behind closed doors. And when we lose the arguments, we still have to execute. However, some decisions like what we see happening in across the Army these days, there's decisions being made. Our point is we got to take our fair share. But when the NCO Corps suffers more than the rest of the other cohorts, somebody needs to be able to step up outside of the institution and not only talk about it, but we need to talk with intelligence, and we need to be able to talk with something to back up our gut instinct or what our heart or head tells us. And so where do you get that? Where do you get data-driven decisions from? You've got to have data. Who's collecting NCO-specific data? So that's really what we want to do is we want to, one, be a part of the dialogue. Two, we want to be able to represent the NCO Corps from outside the structure. And in that speak, we want to kind of influence policy. And then we want to help represent Army non-commissioned officers. We're not a club. You don't have to pay any dues. You're part of IMNCO by being a current, former, or future NCO. And that's really what we're about. We're not here to raise money. We're here to raise awareness. So that's us in a nutshell. There's 5 of us on the team, plus a board of 3, and I'm a part of the board. Lance here is our executive director. Juan's one of our fellows. And then we've got a Department of Education, which is led by Matt Lord, former infantryman. We've got the Department of Outreach, led by a former tanker and cavalryman, Phil Jandro.
Ooh.
And then we've got a research department, which is led by Dr. David Littoral, former Army Command Sergeant Major Medic. So we got this group behind us of former NCOs that kind of help guide, participate, help us with the research. We're coming from 5 years of doing it in a professional capacity. What we want to do is unfortunately, it's a for-profit capacity. And we think that tinges the work that we're doing. Some people think, hey, we're doing this for personal gain. So we're converting, we started this nonprofit IMNCO, Institute for Advanced Non-Commissioned Officer Professional Development. It's a mouthful, that's why we're IMNCO. And we're moving into a totally, nonprofit 501c3, and that's what we are now. So thanks for inviting us, guys.
All right, if I can add to that, and just going back to Nick and Buddy, and think about your career, right? And the professional military education that you attended, was it the optimal thing? Were you there at times when you were thinking about it and there was a transition in leadership and then they brought up an idea? So what I look at it is I look at it because I spent a lot of time at the NCOs and PME, that every 3 years when there's a change of NCO leadership, they got new ideas, right? Or they reinvent the wheel. So we never get things to fruition if we're working on something that perhaps is going to take longer than 3 years or things of that nature. And Nick, maybe you were still around when we're doing the whole the step deal, right? So we were doing the step deal, and the Army, they were backtracking because they had some issues. Well, there's some place where IMNCO could be of help, because we could have helped done some analytics on how best to use the step process, because it definitely did not work the way it was designed to, and now we're back to being suspended, or things of like how do we work with non-conventional forces, the special forces over here, and to kind of marry it up and do some like items of equipment when we do that. And I find that you have in the NCO Corps, you have probably 3 levels, right? You have the Sergeant Major of the Army, the TREDX Sergeant Major, and the NCOs Sergeant Major when it comes to leader development, and that's not counting the COEs where all the MOS stuff goes on. And if you look at it, it's just like it kind of just keeps rolling and reinventing, and we really don't have a continuity of an advocate to say, hey, we started this program 3 years ago. It's a good thing, and everybody gets buy-in, and you continue that buy-in into the next leadership. And so that's what interested me, that because I've been there, is like, and this frustration every 3 years, we're like, okay, now we're doing what? We did all this work, and now it's out the trash.
Worse, and it's worse in tactical and operational units, because it ain't every 3 years; it's every 18 to 24 months. And then and how many times did Trash Talkers? How many times were you asked about, hey, we're going to defund this NCO program, or we're taking away fundings for this, or we're taking away funds for that? How many times were you asked? You weren't, right? We're 50% of the Army, half, right? 50% of the Army, and we're disregarding it for the 20% of the Army that's making these decisions, right? And so if we can do anything, we can do research on things that say, you know what? The NCO has been operating on damn near the same budget for the last 15 years. They're still getting the job done.
Down, man. It's going way down.
Yeah. So they're getting the job done. And why are they getting the job done? Because we don't quit and we always accomplish the mission, right? But they're doing everything on a shoestring, right? So there's got to be some help. And we want to be able to look from the outside, right? Nobody's funding us there. Nobody's, we want to be able to look from the outside and say, you know what, that's a pretty damn ugly baby right there, and we need to do some cosmetic surgery or some real surgery on this to make something better.
Can I say back in my day?
Yeah.
So back in my day, we were debating at the Sergeant Major of the Army's Senior Enlisted Council about having land navigation right now in BLC. So what y'all think? Do we need land nav in BLC? A lens-added compass, pace count. I mean, are the satellites getting shot out of the air? Are we at risk?
So with that, I would say that the problem with it is not that. To be honest with you, we spent so much time in the GWAT, and we spent so much time cutting corners because we were going from deployment to deployment to deployment. We took for granted that the people that were below us understood how to be leaders from the leaders that we had trained us in the late 90s and early 2000s. And there's been a degradation of just regular leadership ability throughout the entire Army. And to me, I work with soldiers almost every day, and I see it almost every day. And the entire Army needs a maintenance refit and needs to go back to basics. And the reason why they probably need to pull out a lens-added compass and a protractor and a map is not so much because the satellites are going to get shot out of the sky. It's because they didn't get it when they were in basic training. They didn't get it when they were in their regular unit. They didn't get it anywhere else. And it's kind of like when the first time I went to JRTC and we went to a fob, and they're like, well, that's what everybody's using is fobs. Okay, that's great. But if you know how to use a patrol base, you know how to take over a patrol base, you know how to set an alert plan, you know how to do the 5 priorities of work, you know how to, make an indirect fire plan and a plan to evacuate a patrol base. If you could dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. If you could do a patrol base, you could do a fob. If you can land nav with a map and a compass, then land naving with a GPS is easy work, right? But they don't have what I've seen in working with the units that I've been working with is they don't have a basic foundation in normal, what we would refer to as field craft. They have no field craft at all. They've got tents now. Nobody sets them up in any type of tactical, like just throw your tent wherever the fuck you want to put it. You know, they've got the unit that I'm working with has a brand new rifle and a brand new machine gun with a $15,000 optic on it that gives them a computed aim point for their or for every target that they're shooting. They're still hitting 20 out of 40. The reason they're still hitting 20 out of 40 is because they have zero fundamentals in the 5 basic fundamentals of rifle marksmanship. You could put Carlos Hathcock, you could strap him on top of an M7, and if you're jerking the trigger, you're still going to miss. Doesn't really matter because you have to have a basic foundation, and they've lost the basic foundation of what it is to be an infantryman, what it is to be, whatever. And the problem that I've seen, even like in the later part of my career, and when I joined the Army in 1998 until mid 2000s, it was very common to see the sergeant major for the battalion walk down and talk to privates and specialists and ask them questions about their weapon system. And if they didn't know the answer, they went and found their team leader and they got chewed out for not teaching them. I don't remember the last time. I've been working in Fort Campbell for the last 2 years and going to every range. I may have seen 3 platoon sergeants at all of their ranges total. I may have seen I've never seen a sergeant major out there. Not anything that wasn't a super big, like everybody in the Army is showing up to look at these weapon systems. Never seen a sergeant major. And the problem is they're so wrapped up in waiting on an email and advising their commander. Like, you guys are all sergeant majors. When's the last time you saw a fucking officer make a decision at a meeting? Never. You've never seen an officer make a decision so why does a sergeant major have to be at every fucking meeting with every commander so they can advise them on sitting there and shutting up and listening to what the information is being told? Back in the olden days, like back in our day, the commander and the sergeant major met up at 06, figured out what company or platoon or whatever they were going to go do PT with. They went and did their day, met up maybe at 11:30 or 12, and then met up again at 15 or 1600 to see what else happened to the rest of the day. But we've, as NCOs, we have lost track of our main goal, which should be to produce a product that officers can use to fight and win wars.
And buddy, let me cut you off to get back to the guys here, because because I'm gonna then put that back in their plate, on their plate, like to where at what point does IMNCO what do they do with like what? Because I'm gonna try to say this the right way. The education of a non-commissioned officer, where we talked about it pre-show, to where we all have master's degrees now, or at least a bachelor's degree by the time you're like an E8, right? Where are we flexing that, and what does IMNCO come in and be like? What are the roles and responsibilities of an NCO? What are they supposed to be? Like, is that something that is like in your ballpark?
So first off, we have no authority, of course, as you eloquently said. We're really about influencing public discourse. I mean, y'all are a part of it right here. Public discourse, the conversations that happen in public forums influence, attitudes, behavior, decisions down the road. What Buddy was talking about, his intuition that the Army needs a skill level 1 task at our skill level 2 course. And he laid out a very good observation. You've seen this firsthand. Where's the data to back that up? All right, where's that data come from? Who's looking at that? Who's studying that? Who is, and look, I'm not talking about, what is it? When people just get paralyzed, paralysis by analysis, right? I'm not talking about we can't just run an army on knee-jerk reactions, right? There's a problem over here, so everybody runs over there. Look, I'm at Fort Hood. All right, so guess what? There was a big event that happened here. We lost a soldier. The results to this community, to the soldier population, to the people who are here, was disastrous. The leadership who got blamed for this were scapegoats. So first off, we are not the answers to every issue. We're not a part of the vet. We can't help with the Vanessagian problem. However, we can help with the development of the non-commissioned officer corps, who holds the standards. Every 4 years or 3 years, we see the sine waves that go up and down. Right now, it's this. It was not in my squad. Then it was this is my squad. And now it's standards and discipline. How can the NCO strategic plan is held by the leaders of today's Army. That's what policy says. And so if every 4 years our strategy changes, it's not a long-range strategy. These are just short-range, short-term goals. We need a true course. We need a true north for the NCO Corps. Look, if I was a doctor, I'd be a part of the AMA. If I was a ditch digger, I'd probably belong to the union. The fact is we need somebody, the NCO Corps needs somebody outside the organization who's apolitical, who can, what did Lance say? Call the baby what? Ugly. And sometimes the Army NCO Corps has some ugly things happen.
Well, I guess one of the big questions is that we have that organization within the Army at the Sergeant Major's Academy, and from what I've seen, the NCO Corps has lost power and influence for the last 10 or 15 years.
But do we, buddy? Do we have, is the NCO in charge of that? Who oversees the NCO?
Isn't that the only place where all the sergeant majors go?
It is.
Shouldn't that be?
No, it's not the only place. They go to the pre-command course at Fort Leavenworth. If they're a command sergeant major, every one of them go there.
Yeah, they go to their daddy's school. They go to CAC.
Yeah, or the CAC. Or if you're a nominative sergeant major, you go to the War College and you attend a course there. Or if you're in the joint arena, you go to the Keystone course. So,
right. But who's the proponent for the Sergeant Major's Academy? Who's the proponent?
The CAC.
Okay, so shouldn't they be the people that are setting the standard and saying, "Hey"?
I take General Beagle in this, by the way, so he better be listening.
He better be, because he needs to work on it.
Yeah. Well, Major Carnes. Hey, shout out to Sergeant Major Carnes. Love you, Carnes.
Yeah, the problem that at CAC, it is, right? It is a proponent, but CAC has a very limited enlisted leader development cell, right? You have a command sergeant major with a very limited staff that really just relegates all that responsibility to the commandant of the NCO COE. So it's, it's like I told you, it's kind of like Sergeant Major of the Army, TRADOC, and CAC's supposed to be in there someplace, and then NCO to drive all those changes and be the proponent of leader development across the Army, from a specialist to a sergeant major. So that's where it comes in, because like I was sharing with you, these positions change, right? And it's a limited staff there, and sometimes we don't listen very well to the folks who have been out in the field, and they come in and they start trouble and they get fired, and then they end up in my directorate right away. It used to be called the rehabilitation director.
Let me throw this in.
Let me jump on that and hit both ones. So Buddy, talking about what he's seen in the field, and then now listening to seniors, non-commissioned officers that have, been through the ranks and been through and saw the bureaucracy. One of the things I listened to a Sergeant Major of the Army that I won't say by name, and then was echoed by, I will say his name because he's a good friend of mine. Just saw him 2 weeks ago in DC. Is old John Wayne. He said that, "What are you doing in the Army right now?" And I was like, "I'm waiting for my spot at the academy, I guess. I don't know. They sent me here, And he's like, "Do you want to make change?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Get out." He's like, "You will make more change when you get out."
And
right?
I want to,
yeah,
and he is,
and you are making that change now. And here's the thing that we're trying to tell all the trash talkers and you guys, right? So what does the Army Officer Corps have, right? What do they have? They have 4, 5, 6 different think tanks, right? They go to Big Army, goes to Leavenworth. They go to the War College. They go to MWI. They go to this. They go to that. Where is this for NCOs? It isn't.
It's in the barracks.
That's right. You're right. You're right. It's in the barracks.
It used to be
And
the
we
NCO
know
squad.
how that goes generally, regularly. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to do some top cover, and we're trying to do some research, and we're trying to say that as 50% of the Army, and Dan says this every time we talk, as 50% of the Army, we're not asking for 50% of the budget. We're not asking for 50% of this or that. We're just asking for our fair share, right? We're just asking if you're going to cut NCOs' ability to literally work by cutting millions of dollars from their budget, what are you cutting from the Combined Arms Center? What are you cutting from the War College? What are you cutting from the education systems West Point? What are you doing there? And we think that on a big scale, not a small scale. And buddy, you're talking about something that's near and dear to my heart.
I think the other thing that you need to saying that we're 50% of the Army is great, but what that 50% fails to capture is that while we're 50% of the Army, we carry 90% of the like we're carrying the load.
That's right.
You know,
we're doing the work.
You're an officer. You do your high speed college. You come in, you do your platoon leader time, you go to staff.
No,
you may do company command time. You go back to staff, then you go finish your degree, then you go finger pop somebody's butthole in Monterey or do whatever you're doing. Then you go, yuck it up at some think tank, or you go, teach some courses. Then you may come back and become a battalion commander for 18 months. Then you're going to go do some more bullshit. And at the end of the day, they may have a 25, 30-year career where they spend 5 years, 10 years at most.
Oh, well below
actually fighting the wars or, carrying the ruck, where if you're in the NCO Corps, you're living under a ruck your entire career.
That's right.
Even when you're a sergeant major, all the good ones I know, we're still living under a ruck.
That's right.
And still out with the dudes, making sure that things were happening and things were going correctly.
That's right.
So, I think that just saying, we're 50% of the Army, it's kind of, you're not capturing the fact that we're 50% of the Army doing 90% of the work, and you're cutting everything that we need to give you the.
You got to copyright that, buddy.
I'm writing it down. It's too late.
You said it. You said it. We're trying to get to that. That's what we're trying to do, right? We're small. We're walking, maybe crawl, walk, run, right? We're walking. But that's what, who's capturing that, buddy? Who's capturing that 90% of the work?
Come on, Joe, write that down. Write that down on the tagline.
But it would behoove of you.
Where are you capturing that information? Like, are you, what is the plan to capture it at?
Right, and that's what I was getting at, putting it back on their plate. Like, what does that look like?
SLC, how are you going to get that data, and then how are you going to get that data in a way that, because everybody's tired of command climate surveys and all this other BS that never had. Like, okay, I'll do another command climate survey on a Friday afternoon so I can get off work. You know what I mean?
I got it. So we've been doing this for 5 years. So we've been working with the Army again in a different status. And so first off, we're not that 100 survey group. We actually get in front of soldiers. We do our homework first. We don't just go in and just bullshit and say what's going on. We work through an academic process. Now, we're not necessarily the academics. We're the operational guys, and we work with the academic community who doesn't speak the language because they've never served. We help shape the way that they're going to interact with soldiers, which is much different than anybody else has done. So much so that we have a utility patent on the approach that we're taking. It's different than any of the other research communities. It was tested in the 90s. Luckily, I was a part of that test. So we've taken this group that used the senior NCO channels. Sergeant Major handshake goes a long way. And so seriously, though, we work with the serving sergeants majors to get access to the right kind of soldiers, to workshop through small series of conversations that we bring groups together of all different, warfighting functions, backgrounds, MOSs, and we ask them some targeted questions based on different issues. We've provided. So what do we do with it? Hey, it's a good thing to study. We've been creating products that are going back to the field. That training guides that are not trade-off. Look, I was a drill sergeant, so we modulated through entire program on how to regurgitate, vomit up words. This is a whole different approach to training. We helped create something called Talk Like a Leader that became a part of PME through Project Athena, and they're teaching NCOs how to talk with soldiers. They're doing it at the drill sergeant school. So we're not just studying to study. We're creating techniques, TTPs, on ways that NCOs can get after being more professional, doing their job better, being more lethal. We're not the lethality guys. We're the leader development. We work in the leader development domain, the human domain. And the last thing I'll say is the Army G1. You asked who the proponent is. The Army G1 is the human resources, and leader development belongs to, guess who? The Army G1 for policy. For execution, the proponent for the Army is the NCO for many of the NCO tasks, but some of the basic tasks, Fort Benning, now they have a lot of responsibility for, soldier level tasks.
And shout out to Project Athena and Juan and old Hildebrand. Rolled out, baby. There you go.
I saw the founder, Bill Smolak here, or really creator of the Battle Staff course here. He's in here, old school.
Billy, don't get Buddy started on Battle Staff for NCO. Don't even think about it.
This guy's a legend.
We don't have the time for that.
In here, man. Hall of Famer right there.
But let me tell you something, right?
Deep
so
breath,
today
buddy.
is Bill Smolak's. Today's Bill Smolak's 57th wedding anniversary, right? And he's having he's having a little soiree, and so he's on here because he's a proponent of this stuff, and he pops that message up. Don't forget. And I'm thinking, did I have a conversation? I'm supposed to bring something up. So then I text him, don't forget what? And you saw it up there, the boil.
Right there.
Don't forget the boil. Hey, but if I can bring up another point about IMNCO, and and you guys know, like, who remembers history, right? Who tells history? History is told by those who write about it, right? Those who write about it. And we have a challenge in the NCO Corps of NCOs writing articles about their experiences or good techniques or good programs or those kind of things. And Dan, if you want to talk a little bit about Substack and the fellowship program that NCOs have the opportunity to be part of, to write and make a difference. That's what it is. We just don't want to be on some show or on some website and everybody just complains about stuff, because you got a lot of NCOs that's like, hey man, if you're going to provide a challenge or you don't like something, come up with some solutions. And and Nick, I guarantee you that, and I was never that guy that would shut down the better ways. You know what I mean? Like, and that's part of the reason that they did not care too much about you, is that you brought a new breath of fresh air on how to do things efficiently and effectively, and not by some folks that get stuck. In order to be effective in this business, NCO business, you got to stay current and relevant on what's going on in the Army. And I tell you, I'm one of those guys. So kudos to you on that, because I saw that, I was like, you want to give me Nick? Bring him on over here. It's okay. We'll work this Project Athena or whatever it is, analytics or whatever it is that and I believe in that. And true talent over there. And we lost a good soldier when he said, hey, I'm leaving. But anyway, I'll turn it back to Dan and talk a little bit about Substack and the fellowship writing program.
Yeah, hey, thanks. So one of the problems with the history of the NCO, besides Sergeant Audie Murphy or the made-up Sergeant Morales, Sergeant York, who do those within our circle we know, but think back over history. One of the problems, if you want to call it a problem, is many of the Army NCO heroes were commissioned, and they were commissioned because we didn't take care of the NCO Corps back in the early days. The NCO Corps didn't professionalize until after the Vietnam War. So the Army's 250 years old, and we barely have any history beyond about 60 or 70 years. So one of the problems is we don't have good records. We don't have a history of the non-commissioned officer, and all the great NCOs have gone in the past because nobody had really, there weren't even books really written about, except for a few hero individuals. So that's a part of what we want to do, is we want to keep the essence of what an NCO is, and it can't be something that waxes and wanes as we get different leaders in. Again, nothing wrong with the direction any leader's taken us, but we really need kind of, you've got to kind of have this gold standard you measure everything up against. And so like in weights and measures, you've got like this golden weight, which is the true weight of everything that's measured against it. So we need some, an organization, I think, to capture that. Juan's talking about another way that we communicate, Substack. We run a blog basically, and so we kind of talk about some of the topics that are going on. We also need the field. We need veterans. We need those who are maybe working already on studies or research for the NCOs to share with a broader population. So we've got right now over at imnco.org, we're recruiting for some research fellows, and it's a 1 year long volunteer program where you during your studies you contribute some of the work that you're working on that we can help cross promote. So we really want to kind of be a part of that public discourse. We want to be talking about things that are important to NCOs. We don't want to be a bunch of whiners. We don't want to be complaining about the Army. We want to be, we want to be cordial. We want to work closely with the NCO Corps. We're doing that now. We're just going to take it from a for-profit version to a nonprofit and get rid of some of the stigma that just a bunch of old guys trying to, pad their wallets.
And stop sending the climate surveys out. If you're going to do a survey, put a survey out that asks a specific question, and we have those questions and have developed those questions. And then have somebody actually look at it that does the work, i.e. the NCOs, right?
Or crazy story, instead of sending out a survey, go down and talk to people.
And that's what we do.
But then again,
I'm trying
to be
to
fair,
I'm trying to get
fair, they have to have that.
like, circle back, right? So that's exactly how we do the research. We don't send out a survey. We go there, we talk to the non-commissioned officers, we get all the context around the discussion. We gather all. We got a 5-pound brain there. We got a PhD there from Army research or from something like that. We go there, we do that, we bring it back, and then the subject matter experts, the Army guys, the retired guys, all look at that, and the responses come from the force, from the field, not from Rand, not from
Oh, Rand, I'm getting started. Oh, God.
not from MWI, not from all the things that they do. The Army's horrible about that. They put these things out and then they throw it off to people who don't know what the hell, and they're bean counters. But we want to make non-commissioned officers help solve the problems. Over.
Yeah, no, I like that. And then I put the website on there. So anybody listening later or downloading this later, imnco.substack.com. That's correct. Or should I put a different one out there?
That's good. It's a good one.
Down there. Go there if you want to volunteer. If you want to, like we always say at Veteran Trash Talk, when it comes to, being your brother's keeper is, are you going to put skin in the game? Are you going to sit there and complain about it, or are you going to put skin in the game? And what are you going to do? I want to open it up. Like, I don't know how much time you guys have. I love this conversation, so I could stay on a little bit longer. But I would say if anybody listening that wants to write, what would you ask? What would you want IMNCO to find out? What would you want them to find out? What would you want them to fix? What would you want them to define? Something that I have that I've always been curious about, which got me in the biggest trouble when I was taking meeting minutes, right, for the first time in my life with old Sergeant Major Henry and all these other guys sitting around the table with retired Sergeant Majors, and I'm sitting there like rolling my eyes, and Henry's looking at me. He's like, "What's your problem?" I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me? This is what we're gonna do at ALC? Like this is what, like, this is how I know why when I get my staff sergeant back, I'm like, dude, I got to retrain you again. Like, you ain't bringing none of that bullshit here, right?" And so. But then again, that's, we talked about it earlier, instead of just complaining about it, whining about it, what I always looked at it is I was an infantry guy, so what's the doctrinal definition? Because I think the goal of an NCO isn't to make sergeant major, right? I think the goal is to make first sergeant, right? Sergeant major is more of a commitment to where like you really want to be that, right? But realistically, making E8's really, really achievable for most of the infantry if they stay in, right? What's the doctrinal definition of a infantry first sergeant? He's the senior tactical advisor to the company commander and the lead trainer. So through my NCOES, and I'm never going to say get rid of education, get rid of writing. Like people got mad at like writing APA style or writing college level papers. Like, why do I got to do that? I just shoot rounds down range, right? For NCOES, instead of writing a paper on the Battle of Cantonay, right, in APA style, how about I write APA style paper on the range of all artillery systems and how they're applied? Because God forbid I'm a first sergeant and they say, hey, you'll probably be the DO and you're going to get 155s and you're going to get 120s from battalion, right? Like, and then you're supposed to be that senior tactical advisor to your commander, but you have no clue what the range of those weapon systems are. All right, you have zero idea. Time distance analysis on movement, forms of maneuver. Because what a good captain will go to a good infantry first sergeant and say, did you send that plan to first sergeant first? And the lieutenant's will be like, no. Like, go give that to first sergeant. Well, what training has first sergeant had to look at a plan for a company maneuver that can be like, no, yeah, this checks. This is what we're supposed to do. So that's something that I would say, like, hey, what are we doing with? I get it. We want to write about we write APA paper styles on Sharp because it sounds cool. And this goes back to the old programs, like every 2 or 3 years, what's the focus, right? Every 48 months, what's the focus? We need to focus on Sharp. Well, let's have them write APA style papers on Sharp.
Wow.
Sweet. So like that's kind of what I would be curious to charge the IMNCO is like, what are we learning in NCOES? Like,
let me give you some thoughts on that,
please.
I'm sure Juan will jump in. So again, this is coming from part of my gig is I study the history of the NCO Corps. So sometimes we have a viewpoint of our career, and even if we stay connected afterwards. But when you go back and look at where the NCO education system came from, we didn't have one for the longest time. And when it first started, it was 5 levels. And so now we're down to 3. But if you really start counting BLC, ALC, SLC, MLC, SMC, again, we get back to 5 levels, right? Here's the point, is old guys like us would spend a lot of time in Army schools. And when you look back at the end of your career as an infantryman, you probably didn't have a lot of time to go to college. And so you find now you don't have the job skills or the expectation that civilian marketplace is looking for. So we said, you know what, that's bullshit. We had to go through all of this training. It was tough. Some of it was very equitable to higher education. And so old guys like us fought so that our PME would become accredited, and that when a sergeant became a veteran, the likelihood was they're going to have a bachelor's degree. What you're doing was micro credits, right? So doing a lot of the work that you were doing almost got you there to that one college credit. The problem is you didn't have a final paper, or there was no test at the end. So what the NCO did, what the INCO did, or INCOPOD, what they did is worked with the colleges, and they worked with the organizations that evaluated, your transcripts that you get, your joint transcript. All of those agencies who assign credit, what they did is they added these few little extra tasks that you needed to do that would give you that full credit. And so that's why you can go through, a career these days, and by the time you reach MLC, you should probably have a bachelor's degree, right?
Yeah, but hey, Nick, to your point, I do think that the strategy is a little bit askew when we do that when it comes to the topics, right? Because writing a sharp paper in APA, there's no value added. And here's part of the problem, and it goes back to what Buddy was saying before. Sharp is a unit level function, right? Land navigation is is a level 1 organizational function. But because there's a problem or somebody decided there was a problem, they want to pack that into professional military education, taken away from the real things that we need to be focused on. And so that's part of the problem with that. Like I'm with you. Land navigation should be in an operational unit, and they should be practicing it. But they'll cry time management, or there's not enough time in the day. But yet they got time to send their soldiers to get their cat declawed. So I'm not with you.
Most of them just sit around and cough on their phone.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm a little bit old school on that stuff. But when it comes to that, I do believe that it's a good thing to build up, but just like Army, we started at the top. We started at the Sergeant Major Academy. We put the cart in front of the horse with the APA and all this writing, and then we started piping it all the way down, where we should have started at basic leader course and move it back up with topics that mean something. Even back in the old days, like when Dan and I went to the Sergeant Major Academy a long time ago. Book report. Long time ago. We have book reports. I think we had to read like 3 or 4 books, and then you have to write a paper, and then you had to present it. And to me, that was something that I learned because I picked a book on tactics or something that I know about, and I learned something out of that versus me writing what did I do in summer vacation, or things of that nature.
We had closed book exams when I went to the academy.
Yeah, but all the
back when it was hard, Juan. Closed book. You had to remember that shit. Yeah.
Hey man, we used
there was no control S. There was no control S on PDF at the time. All right, we were finding it there.
Hey, let me tell you something, Nick. This is how old Dan and I are. When we went to the Sergeant Major Academy, they had those projectors with the freaking transparency.
Yeah.
And
we used to do the hand puts on.
Yes, and they used to flip the little card over the lamp to shut it off. You remember?
So we trained on something called Harvard Graphics. Now you all use the PowerPoint thing. So
yes,
yeah. Well, hey, buddy, what would you task IMNCO with?
Well, you know what? I was actually just Googling it because I've heard the catchphrase professional NCO for about, 20 years now. What is a professional NCO? What is the definition of professional NCO? Because when you hear it, you think, suit tie, doesn't cuss, doesn't do anything. When I think of a professional NCO, he's a dirty, nasty, in the dirt infantryman whose weapon is clean, ready to fire, knows his skill level 1, skill level 2 task, and is a professional at finding, fixing, and destroying the enemy. And like all of the, at one point we talked about history earlier, we had officers because they knew how to write. And we had NCOs because they knew how to fight and know how to train. And then somehow those two kind of got intermingled. We were talking about, if you're an NCO, when you go to BNOC or ANOC, you should have a bachelor's degree. Why? So I can go back to my platoon where I have Ranger School, Pathfinder School, Air Assault School, Airborne School, and a bachelor's degree.
But you are Air Traffic Controller at Pathfinder School, buddy. It's college credit.
And I work for a lieutenant who's got maybe Ranger School and a bachelor's degree. You know what I mean? So if we can't define what exactly a professional NCO is, then just saying that we're going to make people more professional in what? Like a professional stock market trader, he knows what he's got to do and what his profession entails and what the goal of that profession is. The goal of the profession of the NCO is to find, fix, destroy the enemy and get as many people back as you can.
Fight by winning hearts and minds, by placing 2 in the heart and 1 in the mind. That's
exactly.
Yeah. And now that being said,
buddy,
that's
hold on.
That's in reference
buddy,
to
hold on. Gentlemen, I have to bounce off here.
Nobody cares.
I appreciate the time,
Marines.
but I
Get
can
out of here,
bounce with you,
Marine.
buddy.
You're a Marine. No one
Get out of here,
cares.
Marine.
They're not.
Fuck you,
I'm
buddy.
going to bail you out just like Fallujah
Shave.
twice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
80 seconds.
you know, at least we're on time.
Yeah.
Not running late.
You look like a failed Amish guy.
Hey, is it really simplify or simplify?
Whichever.
Both with Marines.
Depends on what you're doing.
Yeah.
Love you, Chris. Thanks, brother.
Thanks, gents. Y'all have a good one.
Hey, thank you. Thank you.
And like
So the
I said
quick-
before,
so let me-
before I was rudely interrupted by
Okay.
the jarhead. And that
He was way too talkative during the show, by the way.
that professional definition will change for MOSs, right? There's a different definition of professional infantryman and professional quartermaster. There's a different definition of professional flight crew chief. So how do we define the term professional as it refers to NCOs? And then because I think that's going to really drive a lot of what you're trying to do anyway, is defining what a professional is in the NCO Corps. Because like I said, I'm not the brightest bulb in the room.
Stop it.
In most rooms, but even I figured out, when people were pushing, well, you're not going to make E7 without a bachelor's degree, or you're not going to make E8 without a master's, or E9 without a master's degree, and this, that, and the other. And I was like, I don't understand. Why do I need a master's degree when the guy that I'm working with has a master's degree? Like, my job is to advise him on tactics and how to train soldiers, not how to write a paper. And but P.S. he's also getting paid a buttload more than I am. So why do I need more? At the end of the day, if I have a bachelor's degree and I'm working with a company commander who has a bachelor's degree as an E8, I have more experience. I have the same amount of civilian education.
That's a different topic.
No, it's still goes into where we're putting
promotion requirement.
Our eggs.
Your degree shouldn't be a promotion requirement.
No.
And they shouldn't count. No. We should get rewarded for what we learn.
All of that has been under the guise of making a more professional force, but that professional force is
I'm trying to bring it back.
But we don't define professional force.
So 15 years ago, the NCO Corps was really, this was a big conversation back in the 2010s. In 2011, there was an article written by a colonel named Moten, Joint Forces Quarterly, and he asked the question, what makes an NCO professional? So words matter, and there's a definition for what a professional is. And so Moten attempted to use a number of well-regarded authors on the definition of profession. And he outlined the things that make an NCO professional. Again, this is one man's viewpoint, but it's logical, and I buy it. One of the things that he says that makes the NCO Corps, he didn't say NCOs weren't professional, but he was talking about as a profession, being a career. A lot of times the NCOs thought of the blue collar guy. He's the shop foreman. He's the one who leads small teams, right? But is that a profession or is that a job? And so Moten really outlined some really good things. But one of the things that he said is why the NCO Corps is not professional. Again, I've thought about this a lot, and this is a part of what this is about. I've been doing this a long time. I've seen where other initiatives have failed. I've been a part of good initiatives that should have done well, that because of loss of interest fell off a cliff. What was missing is there was not an existing body of knowledge. There was not a caretaker of the body of knowledge for the NCO Corps. Outside there. Well, he even said, no, there's schools, there's PME. This was before Nickel Co. existed, but he said there at the time in 2011 there was no body that kept the organizational knowledge. And even though you can say Nickel Co. does that, it moves with the winds of change. And what they were doing a year ago that was important, and a lot of energy went into, and there were some smart people there who did some smart things. The winds changed when you get a new senior enlisted leader, and as it should. And so 1 minute the Army is going this way, and this is our true north. No, man, we got a declination diagram over here that says this is true north, right? So the problem is there is no true north because they change. So who's going to hold it? Again, I'm not saying anybody's done wrong. We need to keep her the flame.
Right. So going back to Buddy's point, I guess I'll try to paraphrase for Buddy, and Buddy, please correct me if I'm wrong. The definition of a professional NCO, what you're saying is the career of an NCO, not the job of an NCO.
Yes. Not the job.
So you're saying separate the skill level. Professionalism is at the end, or is it where is it? What is they? When are we? At what point are we that professional NCO, and what is it?
Yeah.
So I guess that's the
question. What I'm saying is like, and I'm kind of the same thing that Dan's saying. If you don't have a definition of something, if you can't define it, then you can't hold the standard. You know, and it doesn't matter if you're inside, outside, over, under.
Join the fellowship. Click on the link.
Then you can't, if you can't define it,
right,
then you can't maintain a standard of it. And like I said, I've heard people say the professional NCO for a long time, but what I've never heard is a definition of what that is, other than the catchword of be professional, and then and generally
no one's more professional than I.
Yeah, well, but that's also synonymous with you're not being professional. Okay,
that's what
what is professional then? Tell me.
Yeah,
and
that's
I've
what Moat
never
was
heard
talking
the
about.
definition.
He wasn't saying NCOs aren't professional, but as a body, are we a profession?
Well, I mean, we're paid to do a job.
But what is
a
profession?
If you're a professional athlete,
I guess that's what I guess maybe that's what he's charging the IMNCOs.
Yeah,
what is the definition?
Like if the original question was if I was going to ask the IMNCO group to do anything, I think the first thing that I would say is define what a professional is, and then that drives what you're looking for to make things better. Like if you can define it, then you can guide things into that definition. If it's something so vague as just be professional, well, by getting paid to do a job, you're a professional of whatever that job is by definition. If you don't really specify what you're talking about as a professional, then you can't really guide anybody into what your meaning of professional is. Do you mean they do what they need to do to get to be the highest in that career field? Do they go to do they go to college? Do they go to NCOES schools? Do they what are they doing that makes them professional? I guess is what I'm saying. What does a professional NCO look like? Because again, if
we might have to have these guys on. We might have to have these guys on again. Sure.
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying is like just like Dan was saying, whenever you change leadership, the next person can have whatever definition he wants. So it leads itself to, but if you have a standard and you're like, nope, that's not what the regulation says. That's not what the definition says.
That's why we have regulations to avoid the change of commands. They want to do stupid shit.
Regulations do what? They define things. They guide things.
I love your passion, buddy. I love it. Yeah. I do. I mean, that's what we need. We need people to ask the questions. I mean, we need people to question the questions. I mean, I think we're a profession because we do something that the American people can't do themselves. But there's a difference between the profession and a professional, right? So,
correct.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Like I said, if I was going to be if I was going to come up with a think tank, the very first think tank I think that I would come up with, it would gather people around, would be, let's define the problem, right? That's That's always the first step in the MDMP, is defining the problem or defining what we're trying to do.
Gather information, but
yeah, well,
they changed it. They changed it. It used to be identify the
Where's
problem.
Bill? Get Bill on here. Get Bill. Bill, you listen? What does battle staff say? What are we doing here?
yeah.
That's an MDMP
Hey,
class.
a quick thing. Sometimes it's tough to wrap your arms around a concept. So I went ahead and dropped a link in the chat down here. Take a look at it.
Let me get it.
Because to tell you the truth, I think we've done that. I think, again, I'm using Moten's logic on this, and everything we've done is not one person's point of view. You know, we're a collective group, and then we invite the public to join us. We don't want to be, doing this alone. We can't do it alone. And so, we have some thoughts on that. We have some academic viewpoints on this, and I think it's a starting point. We've got our top 10 issues that we're working on that we want to try to study and provide data behind. You can find them on IMNCO. You can find them on our Substack. The fact is first off, we're not the answer to every problem in the Army. We only focus particularly on NCOs, and we think end to end of the NCO Corps. For the minute you're inducted in the NCO Corps until you're a soldier for life. And so we think of that spectrum. And it's all MOSs, it's all career fields, it's all branches. It's the motley crew of the Army NCO Corps. And so, again, we're not saying we've got all the answers. We got to study a lot of stuff still. We hope to be able to provide data to Army leaders who can make informed decisions. But we need to study, and we need people to help us with that. And again, as a nonprofit, we need a few advocates in that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, and again, for nonprofits, if you're, again, that's part of putting skin in the game. If I want to be a fellow and do some research and donate my time, absolutely go do it. If I don't want to donate my time, but I like the mission, go to the website. I'll let you guys plug it, and then donate to them. Say, hey, here's some money. Go figure this shit out for me, right? And we got plenty of NCOs because and Buddy might not like this, but we talked about a pre-show when he was trying to find his computer. But there are a lot of NCOs who have benefited from NCOES and the degree programs, to where we joked about that it kind of bit the Army in the ass, because a lot of sergeant majors are leaving early because they're super valuable now, and as rightfully so. And we'd rather, and like you guys said pre-show, we'd rather have it bite us that way than the other way.
Way better. Way better to lose.
You're having sergeant majors get out E8s. I'm one of them. Get out with a master's degree from UTEP, the Yale of the Southwest, as we say, right? Get a master's degree from UTEP, and you're valuable when you get out. Like, hey, here's a $150,000 job, right? You're not doing range control. You're going out and competing in the corporate world. So, I appreciate you guys coming on. I appreciate your leadership. And again, and you guys know it. I guarantee. I know Juan has it. And I'm sure you guys have it as thick skin. Buddy has it. I have it. You never get better if you don't listen to criticism, right? You don't get better if you think that my idea is the best. Of course, I always think my idea is the best, but usually somebody shoots it down pretty quickly, and then you redraw it up. So, Buddy, give us the AAR, and I'll close this out. Oh, you weren't taking notes today, were you? Bad NCO.
AAR is pretty simple.
You weren't taking meeting minutes.
I was reading the article by Colonel Moten. Anyway, anywho,
you learned today.
First things first, you need to get out of the country. Go experience life in other countries. That way you can appreciate the life that you have in the greatest country on the whole planet, the US of A. And then Big Earl's honesty cap. You're a veteran, and you're using your veteran status as some type of virtue signal or your trump card as to why you're right. Just because you have an opinion and you happen to have been in the military, you're probably wrong. 4th of July is coming up, so don't be that guy that's worried about firecrackers because you once heard an explosion in the distance when you were traveling down Route Tampa. It's going to be all right. It's the 4th of July. Comes the same time every year, right after the 3rd, right before the 5th. People fire fireworks. Probably going to do it on the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. So So to put your big boy panties on and get ready to hear some stuff blow up. And also check out IMNCO at IMNCO Substack.com. Is Substack just the writing portion or?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. You can get more information at imnco.org.
Okay, so you can just go to imnco.org. The technical the expertise that is Big Earl just put up the Substack, but I was listening, so I knew it was just the writing part. Anywho, put some skin in the game. Get with imnco.org, and the only way to fix it is to like all of the sergeant majors have just said, is to collect the data, define the problem, and then try to figure out how to get it fixed, whether it's inside or outside or where it happens. At the end of the day, we owe it to the younger soldiers enlisted and NCOs to help fix the problem, not just bitch about how it was better when we were in the Army than it is now. Also, before I end it, big shout out to Grimaldi and Captain Roof. They're listening to the show, and old Jimmy Bates. They're probably all waiting for a pig or something. No idea. But anyway, that's it. Go ahead.
All right, love it. Hey, okay, so I'll go from my screen, from top to bottom. Start with Juan. Juan, last words.
Hey, listen, I'm retired but not expired. You know what I mean? I'm in the game for business, for veterans, for to help, to assist. I'm here. I'm pretty active on social media, so I don't post a lot of nonsense stuff, but I'm with Buddy, man. I'm going to continue to travel and appreciate America, and I love it.
Absolutely. All right, Lance.
America.
Think
about
Nailed it.
Think about it. Think about it. Thanks.
Hey,
all right, and then the legend, Dan, cleaned his picture for 2 years.
Legend in my own mind. Hey, first off, I really appreciate you guys inviting us on. You talked about just a moment ago about receiving feedback, which is really, I mean, we wouldn't be doing this podcast or any other podcast if we weren't, literally throwing ourselves open to ridicule. What the hell are you doing? The Army's gone 250 years. We ain't need this shit before. What are you going to study? We don't need that. So, first off, inviting us here, we're pretty appreciative about that. The next thing is I mean, your mission. That's one of the things where we're simplicado. We're both really trying to help, make things better. I've heard that, listen to some of your podcasts the last few weeks as we've been kind of preparing for this. You stand up and you say real things, and sometimes it hurts, but it's things that we need to talk about. So we're all working together to improve the areas that we're focusing on. You have your mission, and it's an important mission. Keep doing what you're doing. We're going to support you, and we hope you do the same. Keep an eye on what we're doing. Again, we're only trying to make things better for the Army, for the NCO Corps, for the NCOs that are still in the fight today, and that's really what we're committed to. And again, I got a bunch of volunteers who work really hard doing this, and sometimes we, you feel kind of you want to kick rocks because you do get a lot of criticism or just conversation that just kind of can put you down every now and then. But coming on a show like this and talking trash with y'all has been a great time for me. So it's time been well spent. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, I'll close this out. Usually Dave's job, but he's too busy drinking margaritas and pina coladas down in Playa del Cama, wherever that is. I don't know. Yeah, he's the smart one. 1 week before we go on our vacation from the show. But hey, our big sponsor, again, Veterans Mortgage Source, powered by Canopy Mortgage. If you're going to refi, I'm a good friend with the CEO of that company. He was a young lieutenant that I was mentoring as an NCO, as an E7 at the time, then as a first sergeant. And so I know where he lives. If he doesn't come through on what he says, I will go beat him up. So scan that. And again, if he doesn't do what he wants or what you guys want, then let me know. And then PCS to Paradise. He lives in Hawaii. Part of that mentorship, I told them, I go, you young lieutenants need to get together, take out that stupid USAA loan that you get, and buy a bunch of property around here and make a ton of money. And they all did, and they're all still living there, and they're flipping homes now. So love those guys out there. So PCS to Paradise. If you move out there, get after it. And then, of course, a lot of my talk is brought to you by 10th Mountain Whiskey. All right, so go ahead and put in the code VTT, great sponsor of ours. And hey, loved having you guys on, and we'll have you on again, and we'll see you guys in a month.